Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of the Grafton Accessibility Advisory Commission. We're starting, it is now 6:38. First thing I'm going to do is take attendance. And I'm just going to call your name based on how I see you on my screen. So, Paul Letourneau.
Here.
Okay, Catherine Dupuis.
Here.
Roger Trahan.
Here.
Okay, Alexis Henry here, and we have a guest joining us. I am going to pull up the agenda for all of us to look at. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully everyone will. Oop, I have a few other things open. So here's our agenda and announcements. First, I'll just do the first announcement. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we did do a banner on our webpage, so hopefully everybody had a chance to look at it. And then the second announcement is that Mary is going to be joining us tonight. And what I'd like to do is to give Mary a chance to go first on the agenda and speak to us. So while you're listed under new business and you come a little bit later in our agenda, we're going to flip things, if that's okay. Does anybody have an objection?
No.
Since Mary is here, and welcome Mary from the Grafton Public Library, who has asked to speak with us. And Mary, I'm gonna, do you have any document that you want to share, Mary, or any?
No, I didn't
Okay.
have any documents.
All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see each other better.
Hi, Mary.
Welcome,
Roger.
Mary. And Mary reached out to us to get our thoughts and input about the accessibility of the new Grafton Center. New, I guess it's not even that new anymore, is it?
No, in fact, that's the reason why I wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
Is
All
that
right, so welcome. You have the floor. Go ahead.
all right? So when the addition was built, obviously they made sure that we were accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I brought it to your attention is I want to make sure that over the time that we've gone by, if we've made any changes that make the place not accessible, or there's something that we're not aware of, that was why I was bringing it to you to see if you might want to take a walk through the library and say, let us know if you see something that's not right and needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one on my list. And number two on my list is, although we have a handicap accessible door, it is, we're having problems with it. We've had people complain about it. People that are disabled complain about it. And it's also being used by all the wrong people. Children think it's a toy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being used all the time, as if it was a toy, and parents are encouraging it. So I wanted to talk to you about ways that we could make this door last longer by it not being used as a toy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't
So
know if
kids come and
that's-
it's a push button. It's a push button to make the
It's
door
not even
open.
push button. It's just wave their hand over the front of it. It's light sensitive.
Oh, okay.
And the kids think it's a toy, and the parents encourage that. And there's several problems with that. Number one, it's being used more than it needs to be used, and so therefore it won't last as long because it's being used more than it needs to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, like I said, I think some of the timing parts of this could still be worked on. And I didn't know if you could help the library figure out the best way to make this work better. I think there are parts of it that were not thought through very well.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the light to open the door is on the right-hand side as you're going out of the library, but it opens the door on the left. The door is on the left-hand side. And there's a piece of equipment in between them that is like a I don't want to say alarm system, but it's what goes off when people are taking things out of the library that haven't been checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it's a hindrance. And then the other thing, like I said to you, was the timing. A lot of people are saying that the doors are closing too quickly. You know, if they're coming
Okay.
in and they're using a walker or they're using a cane or they're in a wheelchair, they're saying that the doors are not staying open long enough for them. So, I mean, those are some of the things I wanted to talk to you about, see if you had any suggestions or who I should be talking to next, or if you know, I guess that's kind of where, I guess that's where I'm at.
Great. You know, I mean, I'm assuming the timing issue, I would think that that's something like, I mean, personally, I don't know anything about how the doors work other than that they do work, but do we need an expert, like a door, you know, do we
Yeah,
have
see, I would have to figure
somebody
out
who
who,
is an expertise in these kinds of doors? Because you would think that timing function could be adjusted. So
I think it could, and I don't know, like, if there's a specific amount of time it should be open to for them. I
there
mean, I'm
probably
sure that we
is.
can contact the people that put the doors in. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure there's a way that the town could tell me who we should be contacting. I just
Mary,
don't, I wasn't sure if there's, you know, some kind of game rules I should be playing, or we just
There probably
follow up.
is, and I'm thinking, Roger, of even
I had thought, I guess the question is, and I know that I'm library trustee, so I kind of wearing a couple of hats here. Purinton in Worcester for the locks and the alarms and things like that. Where have they been contacted as to where their skills, expertise, and tasks begin and end and overlap? Do you know?
As
what's the
far
name
as
of
I
that company,
know, the
Roger?
only thing that they're responsible for is the locking part of the doorway. As far as I
Oh,
know, they have nothing to do with the other functionings of the doors. You know what I mean? As far as I
right.
know, they're not part of that, but I could be wrong.
Well, I guess maybe they're not part of it insofar as the sort of service agreement or understanding of what their responsibilities are. But I wonder if they may not have some expertise in
That's a good question.
in that area because, you know, there are two pieces that are connected to each other. You know, it's a door and there's a lock, and they may have expertise in this area. I'm not off the top of my head. I don't know what the ADA guideline is for number of seconds and weight of a door.
I
Um,
think we could probably find that
yeah,
fairly easily, either from Institute for Human Centered Design in Boston or the Center for Living and Working. I'm sure there
okay.
is a
Couldn't
very
that
specific
information be
guidance.
gathered from the manufacturer?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
I
Roger,
would
what
think
was the name of the,
they would have the expertise
yeah,
because they have to design it to fit the rules and regulations of how a handicapped person is supposed to use that door.
right. Roger, I'm sorry, what was the name of the company that you mentioned?
A.L. Purinton, Purinton. They're in Worcester. They replaced the original vendor for the alarms, who was and
Mhm.
locks, who was very far away, and it was becoming prohibitively expensive to have
Oh,
service calls.
you got that right.
You know, if they
Mhm.
were from Timbuktu. So Purinton is in Worcester.
Okay, and they do the lot, but they did not install the door.
No,
Gary,
No.
what year was the renovation done?
22.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Um, you know, it would be a nice night for Tracy to be here because I'm wondering if she could also look into town records for Tracy Sharkey, who's the building inspector, who's our liaison to the town.
Okay.
Might have information, Paul, to your point about the company that installed the door, because it sounds like you're saying Puritan, maybe Puritan, like as in
Purinton, Purinton.
you are, you are,
P-U-R,
ING.
P-U-R-I, no, no G. Purinton, Purinton.
Purinton. Purinton.
It sounds like they have responsibility for locking, but they were not the installation or the manufacturer of the door.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And I know that there's probably a ton of binders and piles of stuff that Library Director Tom O'Connell has in his office that relates to stuff, the manufacturer's, specs on, you name it, whatever piece of equipment. It's possible that he may have something in his office and that would have been given to him or the prior director by the owner's project manager and the building committee and such that may be actually housed at the library in Tom's office.
Okay.
Or in that general vicinity up in the admin area.
Has the timing gotten worse over time?
No, I
Has
don't
it
think
always
it's
been
I
off?
don't think it's gotten worse. I think it's just that we've been getting more and more feedback
Yeah.
from people, especially as the thing that I think people don't realize when they first put things in is also the weather makes a difference. In other words, if
Yes.
it's cold and people are struggling and moving slower, that's another issue in itself. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay.
And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is I personally live in Lancaster.
Mm.
And when they added the accessibility to our door in Lancaster, our door to the Lancaster Library is a really, really heavy wooden door,
Mm-hmm.
both of them. So you had to go through
Mhm.
two pretty heavy wooden doors, and they had built a ramp up to the front door, and they actually put a sign on it
Mm-hmm.
telling people that if you're not disabled, please don't use this door. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
actually put a sign up. And I found that really helpful. I mean, I wouldn't have used it anyway, but you get my point. I think
Mhm.
that was the idea, was to keep it from becoming a toy, which is what it has become here.
Right.
So I didn't know if you guys would be willing to put our heads together and, put something up that says, something,
Don't play with the door.
please don't play with the door and this is why, or, I don't know. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think a
I
sign
think
would
that
be
seems
up
like
to
a
code.
reasonable thing.
Yeah.
So
I think
as
a
far as
sign should
doors
be up.
but as far as swing speed, closing or swing speed, there's a couple of terms that we're dealing with when we've spoken of rules and regulations is ADA, but the Mass Building Code or Mass Architectural Access Board, CMR 521 or 521 CMR. It's the stricter, if there is a difference, it's the stricter of the Mass guidelines or the federal guidelines. But the federal guidelines say that the closing or swing speed under ADA must not be faster than 5 seconds. The closing or swing distance is from the open position at 90 degrees to 12 is the open position at 90 degrees to 12 degrees from the latch. Latching speed isn't specified, but should be fast enough to latch the door but not slam it. So, I mean, preferably it shuts without a big loud bang.
No, we're not getting that. We don't have that problem.
Okay. So
It's opening too quick. It's closing too quickly. Is that the issue?
Correct. They're
It's
saying
closing
that
too
they want it to
quickly.
they want it to be open for a longer time. That's what they're
Mhm.
saying.
Mhm.
Is they're saying that going from walking in the first door to walking in the second door, the amount of time is not enough. Like they're getting to that second door and it's already starting to close on them.
So the two doors open at the same time?
Correct. They both
Yeah.
open at the same time.
Oh, so, okay. So basically they may be in compliance, but the first door is probably not the problem. It's the second door.
Correct.
Because you've
I
got,
Gotcha.
think it's the
how much
second
do you
door. I don't
have?
think
'Cause
it's the
it's
first
that-
door. It's the second door.
Yeah, that lobby, that entrance
They
way.
should have separate sensors.
There is another sensor in the middle, but the problem is it's not really obvious. And I don't think it would be easy for someone to do
Yeah.
coming in on the right-hand side. That's on the left-hand side in
Mhm.
between the two doors.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I agree. If it was something really obvious, there's no reason why someone couldn't just wave their hand and the door would stay open or would open again. But the
Mhm.
problem is they're getting there and the door is starting to shut. and
Mhm.
they're already gone past that. You know what I mean? They've already gone past the thing to,
The thing past the
Yeah.
thing you wave, right?
So the timing on the second door should be longer.
I think so, yes.
Mhm.
But right now, they're set both at the same time. They
So
both
they're
open at
opening
the
like
same time, they
this.
both close at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. They should be like staggered.
I think so, yeah.
I wonder if there's a way of adjusting it so that they do stagger.
There
I
must
don't
be.
know. But that's the issue we have right now. And like I said, it's more of an issue as the weather gets more difficult than it is when the weather is better, just because people are slower as, they're dealing with
Right.
snow and
Yeah,
everything
of
else.
course.
So you're saying, Mary, that indoor sensor, that basically they've already passed it?
Yeah, they've usually already passed it when the door is starting to close on them. They're just starting to walk through the door as the door is starting to close.
Okay.
So if you're in a chair, you might like you can't squeeze by the door as it's
No.
It may be
closing
an
on you.
electrical mechanism that can be adjusted.
Oh, I
And I'm
think
wonder-
so. I think
I'm
so.
won-
I think
I'm
think
wondering if
that's possible.
is that a Purinton thing? Maybe.
I don't know. That's what we need to find out.
It-
Yeah.
I would think they might have some expertise dealing with that.
Yeah. Because that is a mechanism that has to do with opening and shutting and locking and
Yes.
all of that. I mean, I don't want to speak for the committee, and I certainly am not saying this is absolute, but it would seem that um that may be the first place to ask is
Mhm.
Purinton, and I don't know whether, are you the designee, or is Tom the person who would normally be in touch with the
Tom
lock?
would be.
Okay,
Tom would be the one. Yeah.
yeah.
And do you have a regular contract with them to maintain our locks on the,
Yeah, to maintain the
okay.
locks. Yep.
So that seems like it would be the logical first
Yes.
place to start. And they should be able to tell you that's beyond our scope or that's beyond our expertise. We don't really know how to and then I think it's a question of finding out there's the door manufacturer, but there's maybe just the whole mechanism that opens the doors electronically might be separate from the actual door manufacturer.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I don't
door
know.
manufacturer can tell you what they have adjusted it to.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't even know
Yeah.
where to start with it.
But
But
I
I can
think
start with Puritan.
I
Puritan,
think
can
that
talk
it
to
was
them.
fixed since the opening of the building. There were problems, I think, prior to your tenure, Mary,
Yeah.
that it had gotten addressed. In other words, that door wasn't even like locking; they were deadbolting it with like a bicycle chain. And
Oh, no, I
and
can explain that. I know how
Okay.
that happened.
okay,
What happened was the locking mechanism was not working. And in order to get the doors to open when we wanted them to open, we took off the middle piece between the two doors.
oh,
And
gotcha.
we had to keep removing it and putting it back and removing it and putting it back.
Oh,
And so when we would go to lock the door at night, we would have to put it back in, and then we would have to use the chain and the deadbolt on the outside. Because what happens was when someone would touch the outside to open the door, it would still work, even though it was supposed to be locked. And so we were finding that people were coming into the library after it was closed, and that's what they were using. So then
but
we
the
had to
hand
turn
wave
off the
thing was
power.
also
Yeah, we had
also
to turn off the
misfiring.
power to that, and we had to deadbolt the door to keep it from getting opened when the locking mechanism wasn't working correctly. And it wasn't until Puritan came in and they straightened it out. And the piece that's in between the two doors took a lot of abuse, because usually you don't take that out every day. And we were taking that out every day. And so it's back in, but we sure as heck don't want to move it.
Right. And I thought that the hand wave thing was also temperamental too at that point. And I think Purinton may have been the one to address that as well.
I don't know.
I would
I didn't
think
know
so.
anything about that, but we can find out. I'd be happy to talk to. We'll get Tom to talk to them and dig up.
And then the other thing too is through you, Madam Chair, Mary had asked about a whole walkthrough of the library, and I
Right.
know that we're an advisory committee, not a working committee. However, the appointed or elected rep, that's the sort of permanent seat by the select board, is our ADA coordinator, who happens to be Tracy Sharkey. Now, insofar as she would be familiar with these type of matters, it's my understanding that typically there aren't any sort of formal evaluations that towns do internally, and typically they hire an outside vendor to do such formal evaluations. And I'm not sure, Mary, if you've taken a look at what the town's ADA self-eval and transition plan looks like, but it is actually on the Accessibility Advisory Commission web page. Now, what I did do is I spoke this afternoon with Mike Kennedy at the Center for Living and Working, who, along with Jim Mazik, did the 2019 town ADA self-eval and transition plan.
Okay.
So I asked him, I said, Mike, do you ever do one-off buildings? And mentioned our library. And he says, oh, funny you should mention libraries. He says, last week we did a self-eval, an ADA eval just for the library in Southbridge, the Southbridge Library. And a few
Okay.
weeks prior, they did a one-off, just that single building at the Leominster Library. Okay. So in the past couple of months, they've done 2 libraries without, having done the whole town, although they do entire towns. So one of the things that they ask for are as many specs of the building as possible. Any schematics and, square footage, how many floors it is, basic information in that respect, to sort of tee up, the scope of their work. And typically what Mike said is a ballpark for a formal ADA eval for a building of this size would be somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000.
Wow. Okay.
Back in 2019, the full municipal ADA self-eval, excluding the school buildings, was $35,000. So a single building, would be about 1/10 that. And so that would be what he said would typically be ballpark. I mean, we could certainly, as a committee, ask Tracy to what extent, she would feel comfortable with going in there and, going over every square inch and then coming up with an evaluation. This is typically not what a town ADA coordinator would do. If you look at the ADA eval, you'll see how it's put together, the preamble, what are the priorities of access. There were like 4 or 5 different priorities regarding accessibility within the town buildings and such. And so it goes into great detail, way more than like, a checklist or a sign off of, oh yeah, the entryways are wide enough, or the turn radiuses are enough to according to ADA and the Mass general laws. But typically though, these are done by informal ways by vendors. The Center for Living and Working is our, what do you refer to that, Alexis? Is our living and learning?
It's the Center for Independent Living. It's our Worcester County Independent Living Center,
Okay, it's
Independent.
ILC, yeah, independent. So
ILC.
as our regional ILC, the Center for Living and Working in Worcester is the contract holder, and they subcontract to Jim Mazik. So typically it's Mike Kennedy at the Center for Living and Working and Jim Mazik, an independent contractor, who the 2 of them would go out or come out here and do that evaluation. Now they're doing 3 ADA plans right now that are due by the end of June in the area. And so if we were to hire them as a vendor to do a formal eval outside of our own ADA coordinator, they would be looking at sometime during the summer. It wouldn't be like right away. It would probably be like July or so.
I'm not sure that's really what we were looking for though, Roger. I'm not
Right,
sure we were
right.
looking for something that was that serious. We really wanted, I guess what we wanted to make sure is that we hadn't moved anything, changed anything without realizing it
Okay.
as something in the building. You know what I mean?
Then maybe it could be a quick walkthrough by Tracy
Yeah.
without a formal eval, seeing as the
Yeah,
building is
I
that
don't think we
new.
were looking for a formal eval. We were looking for
Okay.
something more on that idea.
Okay. All right. I just figured I would throw that out there,
Well, it's
knowing
good to
that,
know that. It's
yeah,
good to know that, but I don't think, I think we were, I mean, my guess is we probably do just fine. Other than the bit with the
right.
doors, I think we probably would do just fine, but I just wanted to make sure it's been a couple years, make sure we haven't by accident
Mhm.
put something where it doesn't belong.
Right.
And just,
Okay.
we're not aware of it because we're not, no one's complaining and we're not, the old saying, I'm not sitting
Right.
in wheelchairs and I'm not living that life, so I may not notice it. And I
Right.
guess that's what wanted to make sure was that there wasn't something that we were missing. We're
Okay.
not saying that we have a problem that we need to solve, other than the door. We're just saying there may be a problem that we're not aware of.
Okay.
And we just wanted someone to walk through the library and say, nope, looks fine, there's not an issue, or yep, there's one little thing that you've moved or you shouldn't have moved, and
Okay.
if you need to put it back and whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Right. And
I'm also,
the building is so new that I would doubt that there's really any structural issues, but it's more like, okay, this is in the way. You've piled or stacked
Right,
things that are now impeding,
right.
a
In
walkway
other
or
words,
something.
we're using the library and we're storing things in different places and we're putting things in different places, and it's possible that we may not be aware that something shouldn't be where it is. You know what I mean?
And
and
it's
I
not
also
only for
think we're
patrons, but workers too.
right,
Right.
but this conversation is really focused on physical accessibility, and that is
Right.
only one dimension of accessibility.
Right.
So
That's true.
I think, I'm sorry that Christy's not here because last month we spent a lot of time talking about digital accessibility, and I don't know, whether, you looked at, your website or
No,
other,
we're in the process right now of working on making our website accessible.
right. So
We've
there's
run the
that.
tests on the website we have right now and we failed badly.
There you go.
So
Right. And
we are in the midst of working on that right now.
right. And
So
there are new
I can tell you that much, that
regulations.
is ongoing. That's an ongoing project right now.
Right. Or accessibility for, and you may have like sensory, quieter rooms where people with sensory issues or who are distractible, who, those are other ways that the library might be accessible, if you need a space to read where there are fewer distractions. I'm just, throwing some of those things out there. If you had a patron who came and asked for, or a parent who brought their child in, who wanted to read with their child, but in a less stimulating environment. Do we have those kinds of options? It's been a while since I've walked through the library myself, but I mean, I think these are other ways of, you know, accessibility is, of course, not just the physical accessibility of the building.
Right.
Um,
But it's great that is being addressed as far as the website. I think a lot of places, you know, need to be up to speed,
mhm.
as far as websites and web design and such. Um, so I think it's going to be a great enhancement when things finally get, rolling.
Yeah, you should already see a difference. We've already made some changes to the website, but it's a work in progress, and
Mhm.
making it past the accessibility test is on our list.
Mhm.
Right.
Because right now, it's the one that we originally started with failed badly. So,
Well, Christy Proctor, who is on our committee, who has really got some expertise in this area, you know, I'm sorry that she's not here tonight, but she might be able to offer when she returns some insights into that.
I could just maybe do an email, just a soft intro for you and Christy to speak.
sure.
You know, I would be happy to organize a little field trip. It's easy for me. I'm within walking distance of I live right off the common. So getting to the library is easy for me.
Hey, same here. Mary, what's your email again?
It's Murtland, MURTLANDM @graftonlibrary.org.
Okay. Yeah, she's really a guru on accessible
Yeah.
websites.
You know, Christy, she's at Quinsigamond Community College. She's the disability student coordinator. I don't off the top of my head. I
I'm
don't
not sure what her titles
her
or
title is,
roles
but she
are.
definitely works in disability student services.
I know she's
Would say.
one level above me in the hierarchy.
Okay, there.
So I don't know. I'm at a different school, but I'm like one level lower.
Right,
than her,
right,
But yeah.
right. She might be the director of disability student services. I've got her title somewhere here. I'll look at my other. I'm leaning over to look at my other email. Sorry, I have two. She's the director of student accessibility services at Quinsig. There you go.
Okay.
I knew I had her title in an email somewhere. But she's literally last month we talked about digital accessibility. So and she did a presentation for us on digital accessibility. So she's got a lot of expertise in this area.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody wants to do a walkthrough. Roger, I'm happy to meet you at the library and meet with Mary and Catherine and Paul. I don't know how easy that would be for you, but it literally is a 2-minute walk for me.
So
if I had enough notice, I could.
Yeah.
Are you talking about digital or physical look at the building?
I was talking about physically walking through.
All right. And I think that, but I'm thinking that Tracy would have more expertise in that area as the town's ADA coordinator.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we can't tag along, but
Yeah.
do you want me to reach out to Tracy, or do you want to
I
do
can
that,
do it.
Alexis?
I can do it. I mean, I'm happy to do it with, we can.
Okay. And I'm willing to tag along as long as if there's up to four people, we'd have to be careful of the open meeting law and posting if we reach a threshold of 4, because it's committee business and
All right, let's not make it 4.
So we just try to limit it to 3.
We can be a subcommittee.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll get in touch with her.
Okay.
Um,
I'll send an email after this meeting, Mary, to get you and Christy connected.
Okay, that would be great because we're working on the website and it's a work in progress.
Yep.
And it's better, but it's not nearly done yet. I'd say we're just getting started.
All right.
And that
It's a
is
lot.
on our radar, is to make it more accessible.
Right. And that's so important. I think a lot of times people don't look upon things with through an accessibility lens, it's a lot of small stuff too, stuff you wouldn't even necessarily think of.
I think that people look at it through an understandable lens.
Right.
To look at something, and then you look at it, if it's not confusing to people, then it's fine. But people like me, educated in that area, I probably would look at it and wonder certain parts of it, are understandable.
Right. And it's all according, I mean, if you live certain things on a day-to-day basis, yeah, the doors for some people may be the primary thing, or maybe quiet spaces may be
Mhm.
the primary thing for other families, and such, and or again, yeah, digital accessibility as well. I know, Mary, that this is going back 2, maybe 3 years. There's a whole slew of equipment and software that has not been put in place, whereby the library was awarded a Mass Office on Disability grant, okay, regarding it's basically adaptable. There's certain equipment that allows, I don't know, it was screen readers and other type of
Right.
reading software.
Roger, we just put the screen reader out. Well, we had 2 of them,
Okay,
and we just put one out so that it's more accessible to the public.
okay,
Because before it was set in a study room, and I don't even know if
Right.
people knew that it existed. So now it's sitting out where it's more accessible to the public. One of them is. So
Great.
we've moved that.
but I know that the vendor was willing to come out and do a training. This is back 2, 3 years ago. The vendor was, I think, reasonably local, and was willing to do a training, staff training to, train staff on how to use that equipment, and also arrange for proper software upgrades and things like that. And I recall at that time Christy being familiar with that particular vendor. And
Okay.
so I think up until this point, it's basically been boxed, right?
No, the screen readers, the magnifiers, and the 2 that we had, they're both exactly the same.
Okay,
And they were both in room 219.
okay.
And I don't think anybody who wanted or used to use them knew they existed in there.
Oh, so it's a matter of location.
So
Okay,
recently we moved one out, so it's sitting out in the regular and where the public can see it.
okay,
And so I think that's an improvement, but yes, I mean, I'm sure there's other things that I'm not aware of that we could also be making more, people more aware of the fact that they're here.
okay. Well, I'm glad that it is in use in a common area.
Yep, we've made that move.
Great. Well, Mary, I will reach out to Tracy Sharkey, who is, as Roger mentioned, on the commission, but our liaison to the town is the town ADA coordinator, and connect her with you, but maybe arrange a walkthrough.
Yeah, she, I think, called and spoke to Tom, and she thought we had some, earth-shattering problem, and she was a little, let's say, not positive about it, what we were trying to sell. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that if you guys talk to her, she might have a more positive approach. You know what I
Okay.
mean? She
Sure.
seemed like it seemed like she wanted to go over the top. She wanted to know what we were, what was wrong and why she was being called in. And
Oh. Okay.
and so I maybe if you guys talk to her,
Sure.
it'll work out better because it wasn't coming across the right way, I guess, when we first tried to talk about
Okay.
this.
All right. Okay. I think that'll be our on our next step, and I'll get back to you. And
All right,
then
and I'll email you after this meeting and connect you with Christy.
Okay.
okay.
right.
Great. Well, Mary, if there's nothing else, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you don't have to.
All right. Well,
But if you
I'm
want to
gonna
go home
I'm
and
gonna be
have dinner,
closing up soon.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right. Well, pleasure meeting you, and
all right.
All right, be
Well,
well,
thank you so
Mary.
much.
back in touch.
Thank you so much for including me.
bye-bye.
Well, thank you for
Uh,
reaching out. We
all righty.
appreciate it. Okay,
Bye-bye.
great.
See ya.
Bye. Okay, I am going to move along to, I'm gonna open the, share the agenda again. Hopefully. Okay, so, external correspondence. We know the ADA improvement grant opportunity is open again. That's on the agenda and we'll get to it in a minute or two, okay? But let's review the minutes of last month, April 8th, and they are attached here, but let me, Roger, if off the top of my head, I don't think I had any edits, but if anybody did, I'm gonna open the Word doc so I can edit them if you bear with me for a second. Oh gosh. You're gonna have to really bear with me for a second. All right, hold on. Oh gosh. Gonna really try to make sure I don't hang up on you. Um, oh, sorry. Hold on one second. Wait a minute. Did I? Hold on one second. This is getting a little complicated. Give me a minute because they came from Christie as a Google Doc and I have to download it. Hold on a second. Maybe it's still there. There it is. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Not this. This. Okay. Found it. Sorry. It just took a second. Okay. Here are the minutes from April.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Roger, you can just call me Alexis. It sounds a
I
little
know,
formal.
I know, I want to be,
Call me Madam
I have to
Chair.
occasionally be stuffy, you know? Um, I move that we approve the draft minutes of the meeting of April 8th, 2025 as drafted.
Second,
Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, Paul, thank you for seconding. Any comments, suggestions, or edits?
I'm trusting that it's correct. I glanced over it probably a little more quickly than I usually do. But
Yes, and I did the same, and there was nothing major that stood out for me. So I will enter. Should we just vote to accept? Are we a large enough group that
yeah, there's four and yeah,
there's
we have
four
a
and we
quorum.
can be a quorum? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
but you still have to do roll call.
I know that. I know that.
I know.
I know that. So, okay, so can we have a vote to accept the minutes? Hold on a second. Let me, Paula Turno,
Yes,
Catherine Dupuis,
Yes.
Roger Trahan.
Yes.
Hold on, and Alexis Henry, yes. And so, okay, so let me just, Paul, Catherine, Roger, and me. Okay, all right. Great, thank you all. I will send those minutes along for posting. But let me close this. All right, I can see you all again. Let's get back to the agenda.
Oh, so you actually have to download it from the Google thing, huh?
Yes, yes. Somehow it previously it wasn't coming as a Google Doc, but then the last time she sent it to me, it was as a Google Doc, and I don't use Google Docs, and it was just like, I mean, I figured it out, but I was cursing a little bit as I
So
was
on the
like,
link,
oh, we're out of, because
so Alexis, on the link, hold on a second. Bear with me. Oh, so you don't need to add anything because the
Mm-mm.
draft minutes had the link.
Yes, the draft minutes have the
Oh,
link.
so all you got to
I
do is
don't-
just remove the draft from it and you're all
Yes, I'm
golden.
just gonna accept them, PDF it, send it on. I will do that tomorrow.
All right, cool.
Okay. And it'll probably take me a day or two to get the minutes from this meeting sent, but I don't, Christie's right on it, but, all right. Let me share the agenda again, okay? And see what else we have to address tonight. Let me go back up. Okay. All right, so photo banner, I think we can go through these pretty quickly. I'm always open for recommendations. In my mind, the next one is October, did you know, hopefully everybody saw May is Mental Health Awareness Month is on our webpage, but I'll get Amber and Amy to pull that down at the end of the month. Between now and October, is there another month we want to highlight that anybody's aware of that I hadn't thought of? Always open for recommendations, but if not, great. Well, the next one will be in October. Roger, did you go to the Grafton Common Traffic Study meeting?
Yes, I thought it was really good. And there was
What-
also a comment. All right, so there were comments that could be made during the meeting as well as emailing
Yeah.
the town. And I thought it was very very helpful and informative session. It was well attended and a lot of good questions were asked. And the consultants that did this traffic study or are doing it, in my opinion, are subject matter experts in this, just from the way
Yeah.
they approached it. I think that it may not have extended a perimeter as much as I thought it would have in some areas. As you're coming down Worcester Street to where the antique store is, and
Mhm.
there's certain directions where it didn't extend as far as I thought it would, but it seemed very comprehensive. And there were a lot of ideas. I don't think there's any quick fixes, but there are some traffic pattern changes that could mitigate some things. I think the biggest thing was speed,
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
which people come through the common and if you are going certain speeds, how long does it take to go from like the railroad tracks all the way to the old fire station? And if you
Mhm.
just slow down, you're only gonna you're only gonna quote unquote waste another 10 seconds or 15 or 20 seconds. I think that the point was made that people basically drive too fast, and that people are going, through that whole area at an average of 30 miles an hour when they need to be slowing down.
Mhm.
My own opinion is that people are, aside from going too fast, there's some people that are either just distracted or bad drivers. And no matter how much you try to mitigate the surroundings, people are going to do what they're going to do. But it was I thought it was a very good discussion of different recommendations that were made during the meeting, while also people had the ability to put forth, recommendations to the town to work with those vendors. As far as we're concerned, Um, from an accessibility standpoint, I can only speak to my own opinion that it would be nice if there were a couple of more accessible spaces around the common.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's someone in this committee last month or someone at that meeting that mentioned that when you are crossing between the country store and One Grafton Common
Mhm.
toward the Uncommon Cow, that the sidewalk that runs across Worcester Street, that the turn radius to come back up, to the curbing,
Mhm.
to get to the retail establishments is really not functionally wide enough.
Mhm.
Um, and also from my own perspective, and everyone would agree that near the Jerome Wheelock statue, um, and we really didn't talk about this stuff in the meeting, but I'm doing it here, that the Jerome Wheelock statue, the crosswalk that is adjacent to that ends up ending at a curbing.
Mhm.
And so there needs to be a curb cut there. Um, but I think from an accessibility, not accessibility, but from someone had mentioned, and this could be an issue, when we're talking about trying to keep people safe who may not ambulate as quickly or maybe in a wheelchair, um,
Mhm.
speed is always going to be a factor. But someone had mentioned, and I think it was the vendor, that the sort of faux brick crosswalks are really they blend in too much, that
Mhm.
they're not as they need to jump out at the drivers more um,
Mhm.
than they currently do. So we were trying to be quaint and have brick looking things and earthen looking things,
Mhm.
but functionally it was mentioned that it doesn't do the job as well as, you know, pick a color, and paint the road,
Right.
and such, call it green or call it whatever color. So as far as our commission is concerned, we're trying to keep people safe and,
Was that the historical commission that decided on the brick?
I, I don't know. It's not real brick. It's like an
Oh,
overlay of
no, I know
plastic.
it's not real brick.
Oh yeah. And so,
Yeah, no,
but
the
yeah,
the painted brick.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what, I don't, I think all these changes would have had to go through the Historic District Commission.
Yeah,
Um, uh,
that's what I meant, the historic district
yeah.
commission.
And so, but I mean, we're here to try to make sure that folks who may not be as nimble in crossing and things like that, are kept as safe as possible,
Mhm.
um, as well as having enough parking spots
Right,
there, and that the ground isn't collapsing around those parking spots. I think we've uh, begun to mitigate that um,
yeah, as
uh,
best.
as best we could. Um, but I think
Is there a
also,
report from that meeting, Roger?
um,
Do you
I
know?
don't I don't know what report there may be. And I
There
forgot
must
what
be minutes or something from the meeting, right?
um I don't know if the town it wasn't really a formal, like, it wasn't like a select board meeting, or it was a
Hmm.
town-wide information session.
Yeah,
And so the town administrator among others were there. And so and I'm pretty sure we're past the deadline for public comment. Um
right.
I would also
Okay.
mention, as a last comment, I would mention that however things get mitigated up there, one of the things that, and I'll point to myself as uh, readily forgetting, is that there's so much in utilities that are underground that,
Mhm.
there are limits in how to change the topography of what's above ground, because you have to keep things open enough that if you ever need to dig up something for a gas line or an electrical line or a water pipe or something like that,
Mhm.
that you can't be putting grass and curbing over it, lest you be digging it up 2 years from now. And so there's a lot of stuff that's underground that there may be limitations on what can be done. Like even
Mhm.
if we had our wish list, um, a lot of it is constrained by both money and what's underground.
Right,
So
right. Yeah.
But there are some fixes, but I don't know. I guess we can keep a watch for any reports that, um, things of that nature. The town
Mhm.
is making a concerted effort to put those more prominently on the website. So if there is going to be a report that comes out of that anytime soon, I would hope that it is put somewhere prominent on the town website. So I
Yeah,
mean, I could ask about when that
we can look.
well,
Um,
or just simply monitor it.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so let's moving on. Tracy did send what I think, did everybody see that? She did send something around. Because I did put her on the agenda about the request for accommodations form. It seems it hasn't changed since did everybody see it? She sent it earlier.
What date was that?
Hold on a second. She sent it, when did she say? She sent it yesterday.
Okay.
Let's see. The policy book and also the procedure. So I think it's the same as it has been. I guess I'm not sure if those are, do we have links to them from our page?
I thought we did, but
I think we did, and that was really so I'll follow up and just make sure that we have those linked to our webpage. I'm taking notes and paper, so bear with me. Okay. So I'll just circle back to Tracy did send some things, so I'll circle back to her on that. Moving on, I sent a letter of support for the Ferry Street Playground Improvement Proposal.
and that passed last night at town meeting.
Awesome. I
And
was out of town, so I'm glad to hear that.
so I actually simply came up to the microphone and let the meeting know that we had voted to endorse this project.
Great. Great. That is terrific. This digital accessibility standards. I was just going to follow back with Tracy. I think and that was on my to-do list and I did not get to it. We had a very robust conversation last time about sort of what the town is doing across departments to ensure digital accessibility. So I was going to circle back to Tracy.
So the town is embarking on accessibility web features
Yeah,
project. However, the three websites that are exclusive of that endeavor are library, police department, and the school district.
they're going to have to do their own, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that's not part of the at grafton-ma.gov.
Right. Okay. Yes, and I think it's really more like the municipal center,
Right.
which is sort of would be the one, right? That would be.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, somebody just closed the door. All right, I have a couple of things to circle back to Tracy on, and I'll just sort of add this to my list as again, I was going to follow up with her after our conversation last month on this. Okay, any other old business? I couldn't think of anything. New business. Obviously, we had Mary visit with us. ADA improvement grants. Roger, have you?
Yes, I have a couple of things both on the
Okay.
municipal and the school end.
Okay.
So from the accessibility of the from as far as the grant for the municipal side,
Yeah.
Tracy and I walked. I was in the municipal center today,
Uh-huh.
and Tracy and I, she walked me over to the accessible ramp that comes into the front of the building on the senior center side.
Yeah.
And there are some areas that are on both sides, the length of which are like crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's causing the railings seem sturdy, but over time, they could be compromised. The actual walking surface seems to be intact, and that was poured at the same time that the zigzag non-railinged walkway was put in on the high school side of the building in back, where you would come in to use that end elevator to go to the
Yeah.
second floor and the
Yeah.
food bank. Those are poured at the same time, but one is like in perfect shape and back, and the one in front near the senior center is like crumbling.
Okay.
I guess they're doing some going to be doing some chemical analysis as to try to figure out why, but that's not going to change the fact that they're compromised now.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some bids, not bids, but some estimates that would be coming forth shortly for the purposes of applying for the MOD grant to remediate that, which could include replacing the whole thing. So we're looking at 75 to 100,000. Okay. And so that is one thing that we would want to apply for. Either we could endorse that for the town or be the co-applicant. I know that for some of the school playground stuff, we were the co-applicant.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is going back to that side, that back door that I said the concrete was intact. There's an issue with the door where
Mm-hmm.
it human nature being as it is, a lot of times things are being delivered and with the food bank ins and outs, sometimes that door is kept ajar and it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And then so there's something in the above that has been compromised, and then when it opens now, sometimes it doesn't shut. The wind will keep it open and then slam it up against the railing
Mm-hmm.
behind it. And so it's unclear what damage that door may have incurred. But if we were to replace the whole works, including the door and all the sensors and such above it, and also address that door from opening and not swinging into the railing, we're looking at maybe 25K.
Mm-hmm.
But because it is an accessible door and there's a button there and it's at the end of an accessible walkway, it would seemingly qualify for a grant application. So those are the two things that Tracy and I talked about would be things that we would want to pursue.
So how's that decision made? Who makes the determination about what to apply for?
Well,
It's the
I think
town, right? It's
yeah,
the,
I think the town administrator, actually, it's the assistant town administrator, William, who has been taking the lead on this.
yeah.
So between William and Evan, but through William, they would make a decision and either have us request that we be the co-applicant, or if not, that we put forth a letter of support.
Yeah.
That
I don't
would be
understand how we would be co-applicant. Seems like the town would be the applicant.
I would think so. I would
I
think
don't,
so.
because we don't have any authority. We can't be a grant recipient, right? It would
Right.
have to be the town.
Yeah, and
I
so
think,
yeah, and so it may, yeah, I guess it's more than semantics then. So
Yeah,
We could certainly assist in gathering information or coming up with some language that sort of
sure. I mean, we could,
can sell it.
yeah, we could assist them with the grant application. I don't,
Right,
depending on how complex it is and what, what they need, but I don't,
right.
we're not an entity that could be receiving a grant.
Right,
I think the
Yes.
co-applicant is like, are they gonna give us a cut of the money? No. That's,
right.
So
Right.
we advise, and that's
We
pretty much
advise.
it.
Yeah,
Huh? What'd you
we're an
say, Paul?
advisory committee.
Yeah, yeah, we would write a letter of support for sure.
Right. And so
Yes.
those are the two things on the
Okay.
municipal end. The other thing too on the municipal end is, and this occurred today, is that Tracy actually sought support of IT. There was some IT upgrades, and
Mhm.
I guess it was on Mr. Berger's the desktop or something didn't, the Excel spreadsheet that we were using to
Yes.
monitor
Did she
things.
find that?
She
Whoa, wait a
found
minute.
it. She found it. And
Okay, yes, she did. I see this right here now.
so she said it hasn't been updated since 23. I don't know what point in 23, but even if she hadn't found it, we all had the Excel template that Matt Often had put together. Thank you, Matt. He was the guru because the RFP went out and the ADA self-eval in 2019 was not put in Excel. So Matt was the one that formatted that.
Yeah,
And so even if we hadn't had the update, we would at the very least have had the original blank template. So this seems to be updated to a point in 2023 and would subsequently be used as like a punch list. So by Tracy. And so there are items that she may identify. But those are the two big ones that are impacting. There's a lot
right.
of foot traffic in that municipal center at every entrance. There was
Okay.
also the select board has had discussed in a recent meeting on the senior center side, council on aging side, there's going to be a concrete slab put in where there are going to be these like maybe 7 or 8 exercise stations, and there's going to be almost like a shaded, like a canopy type of thing. But there was a question that Tracy had, I think, of whether or not the whole area, any part of that area needed to be sort of retrofitted aside from the actual slab to help
Mhm,
make it more walkable
mhm.
from the building to the outside, and to navigate. I guess there's 2 sections to navigate from one section to the other. And so I guess that could be a consideration for either a separate grant application or included in the other 2. Having multiple grants from municipal and or schools does not hurt our chance, does not hurt the chances of any individual grant request from being approved. There are times recently, and I think every year, that the Mass Office on Disability may approve multiple grants for a town, grant requests for a town. And so I think some towns have mistakenly held back on grant applications, thinking it would hurt the applications of the things they wanted
Yeah, they'd be competing
most.
against each other.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's MOD assured me in the past that that's not the way they approach things.
Okay.
Um,
When
so
is, oh, sorry.
Friday, June 13th at 5.
Okay, so there's a month.
There's a month.
So
Yeah,
what I'm assuming is that the town will make a determination of what they want to apply for
yeah,
and seek a letter of support from
right.
us. Okay.
And so when's our next meeting? June
Our
10th.
next meeting, I think, is it's Tuesday, June 10th.
Right. And so I don't know. I wish I did remember to research this. In the past, you couldn't just apply for something and go back to it. You had to submit once you opened it. If you didn't submit it, you'd lose it. It would be like,
Mhm.
or you
Yeah,
had
it's
to
an
submit.
online.
it.
yeah.
And so, I don't know whether or not that's still the case. Because it
Well,
would
I
be
would
not,
assume someone would write their proposal separately and then, cut and paste into the online application, right?
yes, yes, it is.
Like have a backup.
Right. And so, but you can't, it's my understanding that at least in the past, you couldn't partially submit and have it held for the last submission, like,
Oh,
let's say
okay,
our
right. You
letter.
can't like do part and save it and come
Right.
back to it. Okay.
That was my understanding. And therefore, if that still is the case and we're not meeting until the 10th, that whoever's going to apply for these grants would need to do it between the 10th and the 15th.
Wait, it's not us.
Right. No, no. What I'm saying is that they would be kind of put out if in fact it can only be submitted once and only once.
No, but I mean, so you think it's either William Blake or Tracy or someone within the municipal center will.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. But what my point is that if and I could look into this, is that if there is only one submission and they can't go back, that they're going to kind of be under the gun to submit. They would be waiting for our endorsement, because
But
last time
I don't think we need to have a committee to do that, Roger.
no,
I don't
not a
think we
committee.
have to have a committee meeting, so I would say or if Tracy or William or whoever is putting together the application, they would
Right.
reach out for us in the interim. We don't need to convene the commission to vote.
No, no, no,
Do
no,
we?
no, no, no.
No.
What I'm saying is that we would happen to have met on the 10th of June, which is prior to the deadline of the 13th.
Right,
other
but
wo-
I'm saying in the interim, if they've got the proposal ready to go and they need a letter of support from us, I could write a letter of support between now and June 10th. Right? We don't have to convene a meeting.
No, no, no. But I think we would probably want to make a vote that at least in principle, in support of um, specific ADA grants
Applications.
applications.
Right, I mean, I assume that that would be the only type of grant proposal that they would come to us for a letter of support for, right?
Well,
They're not
well,
gonna-
I mean, there are times either through towns that don't have, I don't know if a town or city has to have an accessibility or disability commission to apply for such grants, but there have been, even if they do have such committees or commissions, MOD receives grant applications all the time without letters of support. However, I think it helps
Right,
when
right.
it
Right.
helps.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. I doubt very much that they would propose something that we wouldn't endorse.
I
Can't we
agree.
just
I
vote
agree.
to
I
write them a letter of support? I mean, we could vote right
Yeah.
now to write them a letter of support. And if they're ready and their proposal is done ahead of time, I am happy to write a letter of support on behalf of the commission unless somebody objects.
All right, then how about this? How about I move that the Accessibility Advisory Commission authorize the chair to write any letters of support for MOD grant applications pertaining to the municipal center.
Good. Okay, wait, you made
I
a
second
motion.
the
I'm gonna have
motion.
to make some notes about this.
I know.
I'm gonna put that in the minutes. Hold on.
I second that.
Um,
Sorry, Christy's not here.
I know, huh? Yeah, so I moved that AAC authorize the chair to write letters of support
Right,
for
for these.
for MOD grant applications pertaining to the municipal center.
I second the motion.
Hold on, wait, don't go any further yet. I'm still writing.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm writing my hand. That is
And the thing that, yeah, and yeah, I can't imagine there'd be anything that we wouldn't support. A lot of
Yeah,
this stuff
of
is
course
contained in
not.
the ADA eval.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now just when I'm looking back at my sloppy handwriting. All right,
So do you
thank
need a
you. Do we have a
second?
second? Paul, did you?
Yes,
Okay, and all in favor. So Roger Trahan,
Aye.
Catherine Dupuis,
Aye.
Paula Turno,
aye.
and Alexis Henry. Aye. Okay, the motion's passed.
So, all right, the
See, I
second.
still am called the town of Grafton here. All
All
right,
right,
great.
so the town, all right, so the second part is now the school district, okay? 2 or 3 years ago, the school district had an ADA self-eval. And right now, I wasn't able to locate it on the website, but did speak with Dr. Cummings, superintendent, last
All
night
right,
at town
hold on.
meeting.
I'm gonna stop sharing this so I can see you all. All right, go ahead. What?
So I spoke with Dr. Cummings last night at town meeting after the meeting, and
Yeah.
also emailed him today. He's going to be meeting tomorrow with his operations director to review some items that are in that self-eval, that ADA eval from 2 or 3 years ago,
Okay,
and come up with some, items that would fit the bill for this grant cycle.
for the same MOD
Yes, yes.
grant, okay.
It's not limited to municipal. It can be
Municipal,
schools.
okay. It's not, okay, so schools under the ADA,
Yep,
sorry, under the MOD, municipal ADA grant.
yep,
If-
yep. And
Schools
so,
are eligible?
yeah, so I know that among other things like doorknobs throughout the district, there's hundreds, of doorknobs, let's say, for instance. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just one item I can think of, but I'm sure there are all sorts of items. There's a lot of aging buildings,
Yeah,
and I have not read I may actually have a copy of that eval somewhere on a thumb drive, but I asked Dr. Cummings if he could, get that to me. So he's going to be, getting back with some items, and I said, we'll do whatever we can to assist. Um,
so it's kind of the same thing. They
Yeah.
may apply, we may
Yes.
provide a letter of support.
yes,
Okay,
but at this time we don't know what those items are, so I don't think we're in a position to do the same thing in the same vote unless you feel comfortable. I mean, I, I'm not going to lend scrutiny to what they're doing. I mean, if I think they would likely know what's accessible and what isn't, and what needs to be addressed, especially if they're using the document.
are you,
Um,
Roger, when you talked to Dr. Cummings, were you suggesting that that this commission could provide a letter of support to their application?
yes, in the same way that we do with like the CPA funds for their playground in South Grafton. So
Okay,
yeah, so we would do the same thing on the
are you
school end.
sure? Okay, so let me ask, this is a procedural question I'm gonna ask you,
Yes.
because I don't know the rules of all the meeting. I don't know all of our meeting rules. But if we get between now and the next time we meet, we cannot through email, everybody said, like, we have a paragraph from Dr. Cummings say, our proposal is going to address blah, 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 blah. And we can say, yeah, great idea. We all like it. Then I can write a letter.
Yeah,
If we do that via
unfortunately,
email, then
yeah,
everybody weighs in and says, sounds good to me.
no, we're not allowed to do that. That's a serial conversation. That's called polling, and it's a serial converse. That would be a serial conversation in violation of the state open meeting law. So that would technically be a deliberation. In other words, that
Okay.
that is not allowed outside of a posted meeting. So
Okay, how likely what did it seem to you in your conversation with Dr. Cummings that they were gonna actually even try for it?
oh, well, he was going to be meeting with his operations director tomorrow to review um, um, this document and maybe come up with some
Okay.
items that may be more prominent and needing addressing more than others.
So were
So
you expecting then that he was going to get back to you about whether or not he wanted something from us?
well, I think that the first step would be that he had items to identify, and if so, that it would go without saying that an endorsement from us
Right,
as part of the
Right, right,
application
right.
would help. Yes,
right.
yes.
I'm just trying to determine whether, so you brought to their attention this ADA, or maybe they knew about it anyway.
No, actually, he didn't. He was,
He didn't know about it. Okay,
I
so
think he
here's
should
an
have been on the
opportunity.
recipient list,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, so Dr. Cummings, here's an opportunity that you could apply for. MOD has this
Right.
funding opportunity. The Accessibility Advisory Commission would be happy to provide a letter of
Yes.
support of endorsement. Again, not something we're going to apply for. If the school wanted to apply for and they wanted our endorsement.
right,
So if he gets back to you, then what I would say is you could say to him, you're gonna have to wait to our meeting on June 10th.
right, Right.
For us, but we can turn it around very quickly. By June 11th, you
Right.
can have it.
and I
if we all agree.
think yes, and I think my task then is to confirm the save function, whether MOD is all or nothing. If they can save it inside the system and just only
Wait,
wait.
what do you mean?
In
Save
other words, I had said that in prior years, I knew it to be true that an MOD partial application could not be saved in the system.
Why
and-
do we care about that? Why do
Well,
we care about that?
no, what I'm saying is that to then, all right, we care about it because if someone can save it in the system, unlike they in years past, then they could actually get on it and do the whole application, bank it there, save it there, and simply wait for our letter. If MOD requires it to be submitted once and only once without saving, then they're going to have to wait until our
How
meeting.
lengthy are these? Because I guess this is what I'm
It can be lengthy.
Let me just say, having done online grant proposal
Right.
applications, like you write it in a Word doc,
Right.
comes your day of submission, cut and paste, boom, boom, boom,
There,
hit
it's
send.
it's last time I checked, it's more involved than what I would have liked.
Okay.
It's a bureaucracy of sorts.
Yeah, but how lengthy? I mean, how many? They must have sections that have character limits or word limits. How
Yeah,
many
I
pages is
think
the typical proposal?
well, I think a lot
It's not
of
like a 50-page proposal,
no,
right?
but a lot
It's
of
like a
no,
5-page proposal.
correct, yes.
Right. Okay.
And so, but there are a lot of questions because one size doesn't fit all. There are both planning grants and like construction grants.
Yeah.
And so,
But that's all on them. I think what we
No,
would
I
know that.
need, what we would need from Dr. Cummins is just a little abstract, 3 sentences.
right,
We're submitting a proposal, whether it's to improve
right.
a door or a program. It doesn't really
No, but
matter.
my point is that it'd be beneficial for me to find out whether MOD allows an applicant to submit something now and not submit it, but fill it out and just park it and save
You
it
just save.
and just save it. All right. And if they can do that, then they can be on it at any time. If they can't do that, they're going to have to wait till the 10th or later of
Or the
June.
person writing the proposal for the school district
Right.
could reach out to MOD
No,
and find that out.
Yeah, but I'll do it because I think it's we will need to know either as a municipality as well. William and Tracy and others ideally that's useful information.
So
Catherine.
you just want to make sure that the person submitting the proposal isn't like held up by our having to submit the approval later. You're saying
Correct.
that they can
Yes.
add documents in after the submission has already
Right.
been put in. Okay,
Yes.
Our letter
Yes.
of support is an addendum. We're just adding it to
An
their
attachment,
proposal.
yeah, it's probably an attachment or it's
No,
an
no,
Right.
unlisted
but
separate
right,
document,
no,
yeah.
you're right, Paul. But what I'm saying is, in the past, once an application was submitted, you couldn't go back in and add. You couldn't reopen the application and add it. It had to be all done at once, which required the applicant to wait they had to wait until they had our endorsement in hand to actually go into the MOD system to begin the application. It was like one and done.
Yeah.
I-
just
So what is
confirming
it
you
you're
could-
proposing?
Was that?
We don't know what they're proposing.
No,
we
Yeah,
don't know.
what's the proposal?
We
we don't know
We
yet.
don't know yet. We don't
we
know
don't
yet.
know. We don't
No,
even
no,
know
no.
if they're
I
gonna
mean,
apply.
our
We're
proposal.
worried. Okay. The
Are
school,
we going to give them a blanket approval?
what do we care?
Exactly.
It's
And what do we care?
it's a leap of
They're
faith.
gonna
It's
do something.
it's
Okay,
a leap of faith, Paul.
wait.
Yes, I
Wait,
understand.
wait. So, hold on. So the school is going to first decide whether they have a need that is a good match for the AD and the MOD ADA improvement
Yeah,
funding opportunity. Okay.
Yes.
That's the
Right.
first step. They have
Yes.
to decide whether they got a good match. We need a
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. This is a good funding source. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Step one. Step two, somebody in the school system has to write the proposal, has to go on the MOD site, see what are the set of questions that are asked, and say, I'll do it. I'll be the grant writer for the school. It's none of us here. And
No.
then
Correct.
nice is if we hear, Roger hears, we're going to apply for a blah, blah, blah for $75,000. And we're like, awesome. We love that idea. It's it's accessibility. It's hard to imagine they would propose something that we wouldn't want to support because it's all about accessibility in the ADA. That's what MOT is
Right.
right.
done. They're not going to propose something that's not a good match for that funding source, right? So then we're going to
Right.
say, like I don't have a problem saying, of course we'll write a letter of support for you. I just need to have a couple of sentences, blah, 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 blah. We're happy to support the blah, blah, blah from the school, the application for blah, blah, blah from the school. So
Yes.
they have to I mean, Roger, you're being a very good citizen, but I would say they have to figure out how
Right.
to do the MOD application.
No, I agree. No, I agree. And
Okay.
Dr. Cummings actually did it last time. He was the
Yeah.
one that did it. And so yeah, in other words, it's pretty self-explanatory. Last time though, there were some tech glitches that a lot of towns didn't get it in. It was a mess. It was
They
a
must
mess.
have a set of FAQs on the website or a set of instructions or contact us about blah, but there's got to
Hey,
be, I mean,
Hey, look, for 3 or 4 years, we've been around since 2019 most recently. It wasn't until about a year ago that we were listed on the MOD website as having an accessibility advisory commission. So,
oh, it
uh,
wasn't until, no, we just got that done.
oh, was it like 6 months, 3 months?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so
we just
I
got
don't,
that done.
I
We
don't,
didn't have one at all, but
you're assuming efficiencies that,
yeah. But anyway, so I think what you can say to Dr. Cummings is, let us know by the 10th, you'll get the letter on the 11th.
Yes.
Bada bing,
Yeah.
bada boom.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. And they may decide, nah, we don't have time, or it's not enough money, or it's not a good match for us. I mean, they could decide not to go for it.
Yeah, I think the big thing that MOD wants is cost estimates, and sometimes those
Sure.
those may be easy to ascertain, so
You're asking them for money. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to tell them how much the thing you want to do is gonna
well, no,
cost.
like more formal type documents, even if not a full formal, RFP, but just estimates from, let's say, a vendor or someone in the know that
Yeah.
can document that based on their expertise. This is how much this will cost.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. So if the school system wants a letter from us, we'll get it to them.
yeah,
Okay. I'm
Yep.
going to go back to sharing the agenda so we can move
Awesome.
along. Okay. Big Truck Day, June 21st. I will not be here on June 21st.
all right. So Big Truck Day, I spoke with Mike Kennedy today. He cannot, he's not available for
Okay.
his modified vehicle.
Okay.
And however, he is, he asked for me to email him tonight the details about National Night Out, because National Night Out also has vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
so there's two moving parts to National Night Out. It's Mike Kennedy potentially then swapping out his unavailability for Big Truck Day, and maybe being available for National Night Out. I need to follow up with our friend, Thomas Dodd from South Coast Wheelchair Tennis.
Yeah,
I had emailed him. I hadn't received a reply. I will follow up with him regarding whether they will be available for National Night Out.
Okay.
If they aren't, it would still be cool to have Mike Kennedy at National Night Out,
yes, yeah.
with his modified vehicle. That went over really well at last year's Big Truck Day.
What's
Is
his
there
first
another
name? I'm sorry,
source?
Roger, I'm taking notes here.
Yeah,
Kennedy's first name,
Mike.
Mike, that's what I
From,
thought.
he's from the Center for Living and
Yeah,
Work.
yeah, no, I just had a little brain freeze there for a minute.
Okay.
Roger,
Yes.
is there a commercial outlet that sells those modified vehicles that we could contact?
Well, these are usually custom built.
Yes,
They had to lower the whole chassis
Right.
and then build it back up. But I don't know. I actually didn't ask him that question, Paul. I had asked him whether he knew of anyone that may be available for that day. And
yeah,
he basically said that he knows of people, but they're not very local. Mike just happened to live in Millbury.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so other people that he may know of were colleagues and such were further out. And so so I don't know where to begin to find someone to bring a vehicle. But
perhaps a Google search would
Yeah.
say where they get built at least. And if that's the case, there may be some that have already been built as demonstration pieces
mhm,
for potential purchasers.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
you
think they are. Plus, there's so many variations on accessible vehicles and customization of vehicles for,
right?
hand controls and bands and,
Right,
Y- y-
exactly.
Yeah, there could be different types of things. I mean, I guess let me ask you this. Does the Council on Aging van, does that have a lift?
no idea.
I mean,
I
we
would
may
think
not
it
have to,
would.
we may not need to look for, I mean, it's just a variation on a theme that last year it happened to be someone's personal car.
Yeah.
But
There are some companies who transport disabled people
yeah,
who have those lifts for
right.
that purpose.
And that may be something that if we don't have one in town, that I can't imagine that there wouldn't be one very local.
Oh, yes.
That could be part of Big Truck Day to say, all right, here's what this thing does. This is an accessible space. This is an access aisle. Do not park here.
Well,
know-
if the Council on Aging has an accessible van with a lift, is that,
I don't know if it has a lift.
I don't know either, but that would
Yeah,
seem a
that
good,
would
since
se-
it's Grafton Big Truck Day, starting with
Yes.
the Grafton
Yes,
Center on Aging.
absolutely. Yep.
Oh,
I'm gonna
just
do
as
some,
as
I'm
opposed
gonna
to
do
going to
some
some
research,
random,
if it's okay.
huh?
I said I'm gonna volunteer to do some research, and I
Okay,
can forward the information to Roger.
right,
All
but you
right.
could just, I mean, first step would be to reach out to the Grafton Center on Aging and to say, do you want to participate in Big Truck Day for the kids and let the kids see,
Mhm.
do you have an accessible van? Does the van have a lift? I don't know.
Well, I'm not very adept at using the web to contact things. I can do research.
Yeah.
It's just simply calling the Council on
call.
Aging in
Yeah.
Grafton and asking whether their van has a lift, and notwithstanding, even if it
Mm.
doesn't, whether or not they would want to participate.
Yeah.
But then again, if it's not accessible, why would we be the ones to be the point
Right.
persons to that would be rec department, right?
Right.
So
There's an Office of Elder Affairs that provides transportation.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's not part of yeah, there's also outside, is it WRTA?
Right. Now, because of my health insurance, if I need transportation someplace for a doctor's appointment, and there's a number I call, and
Right,
one of the questions they ask is, do you have accessibility problems?
Right.
Mhm.
And if the answer is yes, they may have a source,
right.
you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it might be hard. June 21st, it's a Saturday. What time is
Nine,
big?
9 to noon, and it's my understanding that, no, 10 to noon, and 10 to 11 is sensory friendly. So no,
Yeah.
no horns and sirens or any of that
Yeah.
during the first hour.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the challenge with, the WRTA is probably they've got a route. They probably
Right.
could not devote,
And they'd have to have staff, like this paid
a number of
staff.
yeah, they couldn't take a van that's got a route to do
Right.
that Saturday
Right, right,
morning,
right. Yeah.
take it off the road so that it could be on
Uh-huh.
exhibit. I mean, that's why Mike Kennedy, that was a nice option. Sorry, there's suddenly a lot of birds right outside my window making a lot of noise. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. We may not be able to, I mean, I think, Paul, why don't you do a little bit of investigating and
I will,
get back to us?
sure. That's going to be on June 21st.
It's coming up,
Big truck day, right?
big truck day. And then National Night Out is August 5th.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
And Tuesday, is that a Tuesday?
August 5th.
First, yeah, first Tuesday of the month, right?
Yeah.
It's the first Tuesday of the month. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do some searching.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
And Roger, are you going to be in touch with the wheelchair tennis guys
Yes,
again?
yeah, I'm gonna email Thomas Dodd tonight
Okay. All right.
as
Okay,
follow up.
sounds good.
Yeah, I'm hoping they can come. If it hadn't rained, I think they were ready to come. They were excited.
Right.
And they even have what they called one up, one down, where someone who's ambulatory plays against someone in a wheelchair. And the only difference is that the person in the wheelchair gets 2 bounces on their end. The person standing only gets 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That would be cool to see.
yeah, and it just and there's also they were going to bring extra chairs to have folks who don't normally use wheelchairs get the feel of what it's like to play wheelchair tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think I'd fail miserably. I did wheelchair basketball and lopped off the tip of my thumb back in college.
Oh,
I lasted all of like 30 seconds in the game against the Bay State Wheelers. It was a bad day.
Oh,
So
jeez.
it was a bad day. So no,
All
they
right.
didn't give us the sport wheelchairs. But all right, so yeah, so that's that.
Okay. All right. And what's the name of that organization again? Raj?
It's called South Coast Wheelchair Tennis. And that's Thomas Dodd, DODD.
Okay, great.
And so one of the things he said is I think that this is where our slush fund, our $700 or whatever it is, slush fund would come in, that I think they would want like some transportation stipend.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Where is that money?
and there
Who
may
has
be more
control
money
of
in the
that
fund for
money?
all we
It's
know.
it's in, what was that?
There may be more money in the fund as far as we know.
Yeah, yeah, as of like a year ago or so, it was $700, and it's in an identified account. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, for posterity's sake, if you look on the Accessibility Advisory Commission web page, I made sure that when I wrote the town report, our report in 2009, when we first were formed,
Yeah.
that I wrote the account number in the report. And
Well,
so
we'll just find that.
you will, so there's always a reference, as long as that document doesn't disappear, we will always know what that, it's a very long,
Okay.
like a 15-digit number.
Oh.
And so it's just sitting there, it's I guess
Well-
receipts reserved for appropriation
Is
account.
it earning interest?
Very little.
Probably 2 cents
I
a
know,
year,
but
Paul.
still, I mean, it's, interest is interest.
I don't think we get the interest. I think we just get the principal and the interest goes to the town.
Oh,
The
Yeah,
That's
town takes
fair.
the 2 cents.
yeah, the town takes 2 cents. So,
okay.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, I would think for sure we would be able to provide them transportation costs.
yeah,
Yeah.
or a meal or something. I there's certain,
A hot
I'll let you-
dog, a hot
a hot
dog
dog.
at National Night.
oh yeah, they get free food anyways.
We'll get them a hot dog.
Forget about it. But, anyway, all right.
All right. Okay, great. Any other new business items?
I don't think so.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Okay. All in favor? Roger Trahan,
Aye.
Catherine Dupuis,
Aye.
Paula Turno,
Aye.
Alexis Henry, I, and at 8:20, we are adjourned.